Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, welcome to the third session of this course. Today we are going to study mind and perception. The perceptive process. This is very important to study, important to know, because your perception is your main means of knowledge, isn't it? Perception, cognition, that is the main means, that is the epistemology. Epistemology means actually the study of how you know. It is one of the major branches of philosophy. Philosophy has three branches. Ontology studies what is reality. Epistemology studies how you know. And axiology is about values, study of values. So, epistemology is studying the methods of knowledge, the means of knowledge. One of the most important means of knowledge is perception, isn't it? When you perceive, you know the thing. Now, how exactly this perception takes place? This is what we will be studying. Because if you know the heart of perception, you will also know what you can do with that perception, how you can augment it, what it can do for you. And in fact, that is the way of knowing, that is the normal, what in Nyaya philosophy we call praman, proof of something being there, is that you can perceive it. You know, these pramanas which are used commonly in philosophy, every system of philosophy has its own pramanas, which means its own proofs, its own means of knowledge. So, perception is a common praman in many philosophies, even in science, isn't it? Science is entirely based on perception, what you can see. Perception basically means the knowledge brought to you by the senses, knowing by the input of the senses is what you call perception. Now, perception need not just be dependent on senses also. We will go to this, we will go to the study of this, but normally in science this is the way we understand it. Know how through the senses, knowing something through the senses is what we call perception. Now, in all of these philosophies, as I was telling you, there are different pramanas or proofs, means of knowing. But perception is quite common to many of these philosophies. Even in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, for example, you have these three proofs given, three pramanas are mentioned, like pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is perception, anumanam is inference, and they call it shastra praman, which means aptavakya or scriptural evidence. Agamaha, pratyaksha, anumanam, agamaha, pramanani, you will find in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So, these are the three means of knowledge being used by that scripture. Vedanta also uses actually 6 means, but the most important ones are these three again: pratyaksha, which is perception, and inference, and scriptural evidence. So, perception is a very important means of knowledge. Now, today we are going to study the art and science of perception. You must also know, let me tell you some fundamental facts about perception before we actually go into the perceptive process. There is external perception, isn't it? You get knowledge by external perception. There is also internal perception. This is something maybe you have not thought about, but your entire mind activity, it is internal perception, isn't it? You are not using your senses there. But what has been recorded through the senses has become your memory, and you are perceiving through your memory. You are knowing something through ideation, mentation, and memory. So, there is internal perception also. There is something beyond this information also, which is also called perception, which we will go into gradually. So, there is external perception and internal perception. Now, external perception, you have ways to enhance it, to augment it. The simple spectacles that you are wearing, that is a means to enhance your perception, isn't it? Your visual perception is being enhanced by your glasses, reading glasses. So also any gadget which the human being has invented, please see this. It is meant to augment the perception of your senses. Your telescopes and microscopes, the Hubble Space Telescope which you have installed there. It is giving you a part of the universe which you cannot see. So it is actually augmenting your visual perception. What you cannot see, it is helping you see. Every gadget is like that. It is helping you see something more than what you can see. So since this is our primary means of knowledge, perception, we have invented gadgets, we have discovered ways of augmenting this perception. So also internal perception can be augmented. Your awareness can be increased, brought into full bloom. And your mentation, the capacity of your mind can be increased. You know, the way to realize this, what self-knowledge we have been discussing about, according to the Upanishads, it is to be known through a very refined, enhanced intellect. Drishyate tvagraya buddhaya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhi. So there, this very refined intellect, dhi, has become one of the instruments of perception. Like that, your awareness can be cultured. Not that exactly your awareness is being cultured, but the overactive mind is being brought under control so that the volume of awareness in your mind increases. Awareness is always the same, but mind activity can obscure that awareness. So if you clear the mind, awareness level increases. So these are all techniques, methods, just like how you can augment external perception. You can also augment through yogic techniques internal perception. You can develop a separate faculty called the dhi. In the Vedanta, this is what is used. To know Vedantic truth, you need to have a very special kind of buddhi which is turned inward, which is very much enhanced awareness-wise and which is refined so that it leads you directly to the truth. This is what is called dhi. आप जब गायत्री repeat करते हो, the word dhi comes there, isn't it? Dhiyo yona. They are asking for, it's a prayer for getting this higher intellect, this luminous buddhi which will take you to the source of your perception, the source of your perceptive process, which is the seat of your experience, consciousness. It will awaken that higher consciousness in you. It is a prayer for that. So you see, just as you have methods to enhance external perception, you have means to enhance internal perception. Now one more thing which you should know about perception is, perception requires mindfulness. If your mind is not in place, there can be no perception, even if you are actually looking at an object. For example, just now you are hearing this lecture and you will be seeing a slide after some time. You may be looking at the slide, but if your mind is not there, you are looking but you are not seeing. Seeing becomes looking becomes seeing when mind is there, when you are mindful. If your mind is somewhere else, it is preoccupied with a movie which you have been seeing, then you are not going to get your perception. You are not going to get the information, isn't it? So mind is required for the perceptive process. Please see this point by point. I am telling you what exactly is required for perception to be successful. If mind is elsewhere, you are looking but there is no seeing. So also with your other senses. So mindfulness is an essential aspect of the perceptive process. Then, do you perceive apart from the senses? In your everyday experience, do you perceive apart from the senses? Of course, your mentation, your ideation, your memory, all this is not the direct use of senses, but much of the information in all this was drawn from the senses. Do you also perceive apart from the senses anytime? Think and see. See, every day you pass into 3 states. You go through 3 states. This just now you are in the waking state. You go into a dream state when you fall asleep, isn't it? And you go into a deep sleep state. In the dream state, you spin a world. You spin the world of your dream creation. It is not externally there. It is not real by your standards. But you have spun it without the use of the senses. Just by the use of your memory, you have spun a world and invested your awareness into it. You actually live the dream until you wake up, isn't it? It's very real to you. Now, who lights up that dream? What is the light with which you see the dream? Is it this physical light? No. What light is that? It's the light of your awareness again. The dream appears absolutely real, although nothing there is no physical reality there. And you have lit up that dream through your awareness. That is why the dreamer self is called Taijasa. Tejomayatvat Taijasa. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a nice discussion on this. Who lights up my dreams? So please see this. Perceptions can be had at various levels, and although you are the seat of the perceptive process, you can enhance, augment perception, you can blur perception, you can stop perception. You are at the helm of the entire perceptive process. What in you? This we will be studying in detail. When we go into subtler and subtler aspects of your own personality, you should remember, जो हम internal perception कहते हैं ना, when that is augmented, that is what becomes yogi pratyaksha. This is a word used in yogic sciences, which means how do you know the Atman? How do you know the higher mind? You know it through yogi pratyaksha. इसका मतलब है you have augmented awareness to a great extent. That awareness is like a torch through which you just know. So this is a possibility. You remember that incident when Narendranath, as a young lad like any of you, as a teenager, he first met Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in Dakshineshwar. He used to go around asking people, Narendranath used to ask people, have you seen God? And nobody gave him a direct answer. There were philosophers, there were thinkers, great people were there. They would not give him a direct answer that yes, I have seen God. But when he came to Sri Ramakrishna and asked him this question, immediately Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, I have seen him as I see you and I can show him to you. But not in just in this sense, in a more intense sense. He said this. So that intense sense is knowing by enhanced awareness, augmented awareness. So what this is, we will come to this aspect of internal perception also. Let me tell you one more point on perception before I actually begin the process of perception. What determines the quality of your perception? Perceptions, tell me. Sometimes you are full of an experience. It simply grabs your mind, as it were, preoccupies your mind. Sometimes the experience, it may be very intense, a subject you are studying, but the mind is not sitting there. What determines the quality of your perception? You know, to a great extent, the clutter in your mind decides the quality of your perception. Which means if there are very strong emotions in your mind, very strong ulterior motivations in your mind, it will affect the perceptive process. There is a common story which is told to demonstrate this. You know, even Vivekananda used to tell this story. Suppose there is a garden in which there is a huge tree. Now one day the tree was brought down and only the stump remained, the stump of that tree. But the people who used to visit that garden, that park, didn't know that the tree was cut off and only the stump is there. So when at dusk people went for walks, so when they came there, they just saw the stump of this tree and then didn't know from where it came, and they were just walking around. Now different people came with different emotions in their minds. Like for example, some children came there and it was already dusk, it was dark, and they saw that stump at a distance, and children have this fear of ghosts and all this, you see. So they thought, oh, something very eerie there, and they ran away. A thief came there. He had just robbed somebody. He was hiding from the policeman outside. As soon as he saw the stump at a distance, it was already dark, so he thought, oh, maybe the policeman is there. He ran away in the opposite direction. The policeman came there. He was in search of the thief. He thought maybe that dark thing there, that's the thief. What is dominant in their minds, they are seeing that. And then a lover comes there waiting for his beloved. He thought that's the girl sitting there. A friend comes there waiting for his friend. He thinks that is his friend there in the darkness. What emotion is dominant in the mind, that is exactly their perception. Then one man came there who had absolutely a clear head, nothing in on his mind. No emotion. He saw the stump as the stump. Your perceptions are going to be decided by the emotions in your mind. They affect your perceptions. So if you want direct perception, want to know something as it is, you must clear your mind. This holds good in a very deep way, you know. Normal sensory perception, you may not have that much of problem. But in the kind of perception which we are going to study, clarity of mind is very important. If the mind is crystal clear, perception will occur just like that. So remember, this is another factor in augmenting perception. Now, if the mind is cluttered too much, it will even deflect knowledge. Isn't it? Isn't this true? So now let's go into the actual method of perception. How does it actually take place? See, you have to pay attention because it is not so simple a process, although it happens just like that. You see, now I am seeing this equipment. Immediately I am having an experience of it. But the actual process involved, let us see first what science tells us. What is the process of perception? See, first of all, you see a thing only by the light it throws out at you. Isn't this true? Your physics will tell you this. You are seeing that thing. Now I am seeing that chair. It is red in color. It is actually throwing out red light, electromagnetic radiation in that particular range. So it is appearing as red to me. It is not the light it is holding back. It is rejected light which I am perceiving as the color of the chair. Right? Your physics will tell you this. If I could perceive the light it was holding back, that would be the actual color of the chair. But I can never perceive that. I can only perceive the light it has rejected, thrown back at me. You perceive anything only through the light it throws back at you. So you see, even in astronomy, when you are perceiving a star, you are perceiving that star by the light it has thrown back at you. Maybe that light left that star 1 million light years back. So you are perceiving it as it was 1 million light years back. That is why astronomy में हम कहते हैं, when you look deep into space, you look back into time. You can only perceive a thing by the light it throws at you. This is the first point you should know. Now when that light is thrown at you, what happens? It goes into your visual apparatus. It enters your eye. There is an inverted image formed in your retina. An inverted image of that object carried by that electromagnetic radiation. This is the explanation of science. And that inverted image in your retina is further carried into your brain. That information passes through the thalamus, which acts like a filter, and goes to your visual cortex. There you are getting an experience, as it were, of that object. Now please see, electromagnetic radiation is photonic light, photons, it is colorless. When it enters your brain, it is sparking off your neurochemistry, electromagnetic radiation. Neurochemistry also is colorless, but your experience of the object is colorful, formful. You see the object in 3D, in real space and time. How does this happen? When the electromagnetic radiation is colorless, formless, when your neurochemistry is colorless, formless, but you experience the object. How does an impression, which is nothing but EMR, become an experience to you? How does electromagnetic radiation become color to you? How does this happen? This is a huge gap which consciousness studies is trying to explore. This is a huge gap in science. How do I actually perceive the object as a three-dimensional image in real space and time with so much of color? You actually experience the beauty of this entire world. You are experiencing it. You are not just catching the impression, the light it is throwing out. You are experiencing it. You see, the video camera, which is tracking images, that is also tracking the image and holding it in its memory. It is not experiencing the object, isn't it? You are experiencing the object. So awareness, self-awareness is required to experience a thing. Are you catching the point? Not just memory. Self-awareness is required to experience. Finally, awareness is at the heart of experience. If you were not aware, if you were not self-aware being, you cannot experience the thing. Just like how the video camera, your mobile phone cannot experience anything. It can just hold the image for you. So experience itself is possible because awareness is the very seat of your experience, the very heart of your experience. So here, where science stops, science is still exploring, Yoga Vedanta make a tremendous contribution here. They help you understand what is the role of mind and this awareness in the perceptive process. Science will give you the information from the object to the brain, how you are perceiving. From the brain to consciousness, Yoga Vedanta contribute immensely in our understanding how exactly we perceive, how the perceptive process takes place. So let me show this to you on a slide. First of all, science, how does it explain the perceptive process? This you should see on a slide, and then you see, first of all, acknowledge this fact that experience is always in the first person, right? Awareness is required to experience an object. I told you just now, if you are not a self-aware entity, you cannot experience. You can just catch an image, you cannot experience it. So awareness is required for experience, so experience is always in the first person. In science, the perceptive process is like this. You see, electromagnetic radiation entering, look at the first image, entering your eye, goes to your brain, the visual cortex in your brain through the thalamus, and there it is interpreted as that particular object. You are actually seeing the object. Such a huge object, even this vast universe, you can actually feel it, you can see it. How does this happen in the brain? You know, there is David Eagleman's documentary, The Brain. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It is worth seeing because he puts very Vedantic questions there. He asks, how does the brain actually construct reality? What is involved in the perceptive process? So here, science will tell you, basically now go to the next image, see the next image. You see, the bird is the object there. Now the light thrown out by that object finally enters your brain, and the brain synthesizes this knowledge through recognition. So memory also is involved usually in the perceptive process, that this is a bird. From your eye it is going to your brain, and finally brain is experiencing the object and giving you the information, this is a bird. So this wonderful explanation science is giving us, how it is happening. What all is involved in the perceptive process? First of all, object of perception. Then the light it has to throw out. If it didn't throw out light, you would not perceive it even if it was there. Your black holes are like that, isn't it? And if it completely reflected off all the light, it would appear only white. If it did not reflect any light, it would appear dark. So you determine the object by the light it throws at you. When it enters your eye, eye should be in proper functioning order. An inverted image is formed on your retina. That in the form of electrochemical signals is going to your brain. So electromagnetic radiation and neurochemistry both are involved. And on your brain, in the visual cortex, you get an actual picture. You experience the object. How? Nobody can tell. Right? This is the perceptive process which science tells us. Now what has yoga, the yogic sciences to add to this? They give you a very important point here. See, we just discussed attention is required for perception. So where is mind here? Attention is a faculty of the mind, isn't it? If you are not paying attention to something, you are not going to perceive it even if it is there. You are looking at it, but you are not seeing it. So where does mind come into the picture? So yoga will give you this answer. perception takes place when the mind catches the object, as it were. Mind is involved in this act of perception. The mind, the object, as it were, impinges on the mind. Mind draws the object within your system, and it modifies according to the nature of that object. This modification is called a vritti. It's a very important concept in yoga. Try to understand this. According to the object, the mind modifies. Vritti means a whirl. It modifies according to the object. And this mind is self-aware, isn't it? Awareness is already invested in the mind. So this invested awareness, technically it is called Chidabhas, which means mental awareness. You feel a sense of aliveness, you see, when you think. This mental awareness illumines this vritti. The mental awareness, what is its source? It is reflected awareness. The source is the Atman, consciousness standing behind the mind. That consciousness gets reflected in the mind, Chidabhas is created, which means mental awareness is generated, that illumines this vritti, and that is how you know the object. This is the explanation which yoga gives you. So look at this image here. You have the object, and then the same process, it's going to the brain, the light from the object, and there mind becomes involved. See, try to understand it like this. The mind is, the brain is the physical template, as it were, of the mind. The brain is the hardware, mind is the software. So the essential process is happening in the mind, because the mind draws the object and modifies itself according to the object, creates the vritti. Now if this impression is very deep, it translates neurophysiologically into an engram in your brain. It's a sort of a etch on your brain due to the perceptive process, due to the repetition of that. And as a result, what happens? The vritti in the mind is illumined by consciousness, by awareness, and as a result you feel you know that object. So they work in coordination, the brain, mind, awareness. So immediately you feel you have perceived that object, you know that object. So this is the yogic explanation. Now what are the extra factors involved here? Mind is involved, faculty of attention is involved. All this science is not explaining, isn't it? The creation of vritti, the illumination of that vritti through the Chidabhas, through awareness, and thus you know. So this is the yoga on perception, the yogic process on perception. Now the important things to note here is, we all know mind is absolutely required for perception, isn't it? Without mind you cannot perceive. If you are mindless at some particular moment, maybe you dozed off during a class, you are not going to see what is happening. You are not going to feel or experience anything there. Mind, what exactly happens with the mind? This is the explanation here. And I told you, at the heart of the perceptive process is consciousness. Because your real nature is consciousness, that got reflected in the mind and became the sense of aliveness, as it were, which you feel in the mind. The mental awareness which you generally feel, which accompanies thought, which makes your thoughts things for you, as it were. You experience your thoughts. That mental awareness, these are the factors which are absolutely required for the perceptive process according to yoga. That is why you actually get the experience of the object right within you. You are experiencing everything where? Within you. Please see. The object may be outside of you, but you are experiencing it where? Within you. You don't experience it there. You experience it right within you. And that is why yoga will bring in mind, it brings in awareness and gives you an additional, something added to science as to how perception is taking place. Now Vedanta will add something more to this. Just observe these points. At some point it will click, yes, this can be a perfect possibility. This is what must be happening. What Vedanta will tell you is, it points to something very obvious. Vedanta will tell you, you see, where is the perceptive process occurring? It is occurring in your awareness. Apart from your awareness, there is no perception, isn't it? Things can be outside your skin. They are not outside your awareness, right? So, your awareness, as it were, encapsulates the entire perceptive process. Subject and object are in awareness. Subject is subject only with respect to object. Everything is an appearance in your awareness. Fundamental fact about perception is, it is because you are aware that you are perceiving. So, perception is happening in awareness. It is not outside your awareness. So, this is the diagram which we can give you for Advaita Vedanta on perception. You see, consciousness is essentially doing the entire perceptive process. Entire perception takes place in your awareness. Object and subject are nothing but appearances in your awareness. This is what they are adding to the perceptive process. Now, notice a few points carefully. See, if I show you a simple, let me take an example to help you understand this. Suppose you have clicked your selfie and you are watching your selfie. What is watching what? Tell me now, you must start speaking in a little Vedantic language. Who is watching what when you are watching your selfie on your mobile? Your mind is watching your body, right? And your intellect is interpreting the whole thing. The intellect is seeing your mind watching your body. But this whole process is taking place in your awareness, isn't it? Because you are aware, your intellect is watching your mind watching your body. The simple perception of your selfie is in your awareness. This is what we mean when we say awareness is required for the entire perceptive process. It is taking place in awareness. That is why subject and object are appearances in your awareness. See, I can say color, for example. It is an appearance of electromagnetic radiation. I can say that, isn't it? It's not wrong to say that. Even scientifically it is true. Color is nothing but an appearance of electromagnetic radiation. So also the entire object is an appearance in your consciousness, because consciousness is the very seat of your experience, and it is in consciousness that you perceive. So, at the heart of the perception process lies consciousness. You can never fully explain perception without explaining consciousness. That is why. We are halfway through when we try to explain perception without bringing in mind and consciousness. So, this is the entire thing about the process of perception which you should know. Now, few more points I would like to dwell upon here, so that you understand it very scientifically. See, first of all, I told you, since your mind and awareness is involved in the perception process, if you want to increase your perceptions, what will you increase? Think and tell me. Just like how external perception is augmented by the gadgets you have invented, right? Your telescope and microscope, your simple glasses are augmenting your external perceptions. Internal perceptions can be augmented by what? If these are the factors involved for perception, if you are able to enhance the capacity of your mind, clarify the mind, your perception should increase, isn't it? So, this is one yogic process, what is called emptying mind, clarifying the mind, removing the unnecessary clutter, clearing up the mind will enhance your perceptions. Then, if you can increase that chidabhas, the level of mental awareness, this is also a yogic technique, vipassana jo kehte hai na, it works with all this. So, you can enhance your mental awareness. You know, this experience is the most beautiful experience you can have. Just now, the amount of aliveness you feel, if you felt double that amount of aliveness, how would you feel? You would feel far more happier. Life is far more beautiful. Every experience will just hit you because your mental awareness has enhanced. You have become intensely aware, profoundly aware. So, by increasing your mental awareness, you enhance your perceptions. And The third most important point is, if you go directly to the source, you can perceive the very seat of your perception, the seat of your experience, which is what? Which is the actual aim of self-realization or Vedanta, to know the source of my experience, to know the self, to know the Atman. So there are ways to do this. ऐसा मत समझिए कि how do we have techniques? You see, we have 9 hours of theory in this particular course. More than 9 hours of theory actually. So I am taking you step by step through these processes. But these are actually meant to be practiced through meditation, because as I said, culturing awareness, enhancing the mental awareness in your mind, removing the clutter from your mind, these are all meditative processes. Through meditation you actually achieve them. Abhi, just now you hear the theory. You should know that this can be done. Then gradually you should practice it little by little. If you just clear your mind, you can very clearly see how your perceptive process just blossoms beyond your imagination. If you just clear the mind of unnecessary thought, unnecessary emotion, negative emotions, if you just clear your mind of all that, you can see anything you perceive affects you deeply. A simple tree, a simple leaf of a tree can give you immense happiness. ये देखा है आपने? जीवन में कभी कभी ये होता है. A beautiful sunset and sunrise can put you into very high states of mind, because mind is so clear, mind has become so clear. Awareness, mental awareness has naturally augmented. So देखिए, इन महापुरुषों के लाइफ में, like in the life of Vivekananda or Sri Ramakrishna, simple things would put them into samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna's life, if you have read, you will see this. Why? Mind has become so sensitive. They have augmented awareness to such an extent, hardly a stimulus is required to put them into that supreme state. So ये संभव है. So by enhancing your awareness content, you enhance your perceptions, right? And the second process is, if you just wake up to reality, as I told you, you seek the source of this mental awareness, which is consciousness. That is the Vedantic way. Developing the dhi to such an extent, it just awakens to the truth. These are two ways which I would like to illustrate you through the medium of two stories, because this is such a high level knowledge. Unless you have something to relate with through stories, it will become a little difficult for you to understand. देखिए, योग कैसे काम करता है? How does yoga work? I will tell you in the form of a story. There was once a king, and he was very proud of his splendor and his achievements, and that is why he used to tell his court poets to sing his glories, to sing about him, talk about him. He was a vain king. Now, one of his very wise courtiers told him, "My lord, he alone is worth praise who has conquered himself, not merely conquered the external, but who has conquered his own mind." And the king said, "What are you talking about?" Then he said, "Do you find any people like that?" And then the courtier said, "Yes. In fact, we have a sage quite close to our kingdom. He has the epithet, means people say he is a one who has conquered 1,000 elephants. That strength he has, because his mind is completely under his control." Then the king said, "I don't believe all this. Let me go and see anyway what you are talking about." So he went with his courtiers, he went with 1,000 soldiers to find out if that sage is really like that. So what happened? They all went and sat around this sage. This sage was sitting under a tree in his ashram. And there the other rishis came and told him, "Don't disturb him, this is his time for meditation. You all sit here and you can watch him." So they sat around this yogi, this great sage, and then after, what happened is he had his eyes closed, so he didn't even notice that they had come. Then he went into his meditation. As soon as he went into his meditative states, a deep calmness came over all of them. All their minds, which had come with anger and arrogance and pride, somehow they became very calm. And they felt that calmness as a serene form of happiness. So they were very happy sitting there like children. And they also closed their eyes. Then this sage, this yogi, he entered into the state of samadhi, which means mind stopped. Mind stopped, awareness is completely there. See, apparently from the outside, samadhi may appear like an unconscious state. Deep within there is full consciousness. Mind has been arrested. So when he entered into this state, you know what happened to all of them? Their mind, their thought process also stopped. This is the power of realization. Their thoughts also stopped, yet they are fully conscious, fully aware. So they thought, what kind of a state is this? What kind of power is in this mind? Then after a long time, this yogi came out of his samadhi. And immediately they saw that their minds also now started moving. The mind had become unmoving. And it started moving in the sense thinking. And thoughts started coming in. Then they realized they were sitting here in front of the sage and a happy mood prevailed. Then in this a kind of a supremely peaceful state, the yogi came into normal awareness, normal consciousness, and then he greeted the king and asked him when did he come, why he has come. And the king stood up and told him, I have nothing more to tell you. When your mind went into meditation, all our minds calmed down. 1,000 minds came to a standstill. And when you went into the state of samadhi, we experienced something of that state. We experienced the state of full-blown consciousness within. So you have been able, you are really fit for this epithet that you can control 1,000 elephants, because the mind, Mada Hasti they say, it is like a mad elephant. You are able to control that mind. If you can control it in your system, you get the capacity to control it in other minds. You are able to control other minds. So this capacity we found in you. So indeed, you alone are fit to be worshipped and praised. Saying this, the king and his retinue went back in great joy, because they had tasted some genuine, original bliss, not the synthetic joys of life. Synthetic joys means joys based on objects. Original joy means the joy that you get from within. So this is a capacity of the human mind. You see, you can enhance perception just by training your mind. In the Yoga Sutras, you have this fourth sutra which tells you what happens when you stop mind activity. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. The witnessing awareness will go back to its source. It will go back to its original, it will stabilize itself in its original state. This is the actual yogavastha, the ability of this system to usher your mind into its original state. Then only you can understand that concentration, attention, clarity, all these are not very big things. You can attain them if you on a daily basis touch these higher states. They are your natural states of mind. And that is why achievement, success, all that follows such elevated states of mind, they are perfect possibilities with you. You don't have to struggle your mind with your mind unnecessarily by getting wrong attitudes, wrong motivations, wrong exposures. If you practice a little yoga, control at these levels, you will see the mind will function like an actual instrument to take you wherever you want to go. It's your best friend. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is how the mind is described, you know. It is either your best friend or your worst enemy. Depends on you, whether you make your mind your best friend or your worst enemy. If you give it good food, it will become your best friend. You give it bad food, it will become your enemy. What is that food? Sense impressions, sense intake, and the thoughts you think. So, aapke haath mein hai. You are at the helm of change. You can do with your life whatever you want to do, because your mind is your mind. You can make the changes required. So this is one way to enhance and augment your perceptions. The second way is the way of Vedanta. What Vedanta tells you is, you just awaken yourself to reality. There is no particular process. See, when you wake up, is there a process to waking up when you wake up early in the morning? Is there a process to waking up? You were asleep and you wake up after some time. So also this dhi in the human being, this higher faculty of intuition, this is the highest form of intelligence actually, will just wake up the mind to the reality of the self. And this also is illustrated through a story which I will tell you. See, please observe this story. It has something very important to teach us. There was a classroom of primary school children, and the teacher of this classroom, she was a lady who was quite old in years, which means she was close to retirement. She knew the ways of little children, and so she was a master storyteller. So one day she gathered all the children. She wanted to drive home a very important point. So she started telling them a story. She told them, all the children, 6-7 years old, sitting around her, and she started telling them, look my children, I'm going to tell you a story. Now you start your imagination. Start imagining today when you went home from school, you had you played and you studied, and then you had your supper and then you fell asleep. In that sleep you had a dream. Now imagine in that dream you went to the zoo. You went to the zoo with all your friends and your parents are also there, and you enjoyed yourself. You ate popcorn and you ate cotton candy, and then you started visiting all the animals in the zoo. You saw the rabbits, you saw the peacocks, you saw the birds, you saw the deer. You were so delighted and laughing and playing with your friends. Then you slowly came to the huge cages where there were wild animals. She is explaining to the children, and the children became very alert. So you came to the cage of the tiger. There's this huge tiger ferociously moving about in his cage, because he's caged and it's a very huge cage, a metal cage, but the tiger is so ferocious and so huge. If he just slaps the cage is shaking. It's such a huge tiger. And looking at that ferocious beast, you got frightened. And as you moved forward, the tiger also moved in his cage. When you went towards the edge of the cage, the tiger also is going there. When you moved back, the tiger also moved back. Now the children were really fearful as she was describing the tiger, and the tiger is directly looking at you. Now it so happened that this cage, which was huge, had its top open. Because it was such a huge cage, it was expected that the tiger is not going to come out of it. But it so happened that the tiger struck the cage with full might because he was very hungry, and the cage suffered a dent. In that dent, the tiger suddenly managed to leap out. He leapt out of the cage, and the next thing you knew was you were screaming and running away, and all your friends were screaming and running away because the cage is now out of the tiger is now out of his cage. And you just look behind like this and you see the tiger is chasing you, and you run as fast as you can, and then suddenly, to your great horror, you find a cold paw falling on you, and you turn back and see this horrific sight of the tiger upon you and with its terrible face, and you are half dead already, and you are screaming, but even the voice, you are so terribly scared, and you face this terrible situation of being eaten alive while you are fully conscious. Now the children had all turned red by this time. What would you do in this condition? The teacher is asking the students. And one little boy stood up and said, Madam, I will punch the tiger in the nose. And then another little boy stood up and said, Madam, I will kick the tiger out. And another little child said, I will scream to my mummy, she must be somewhere close by, she will come to help me. One little smart girl suddenly stood up and said, Madam, I would just wake up. Remember, it was a dream. She started with, in your dream you went to the zoo. So the girl said, Madam, I would just wake up. That is the answer. That is the solution to this problem. If you just wake up to reality, you don't need to defend or solve your problems in any way. There are no problems. It was all part of the dream. You don't need to punch the tiger or kick the tiger out. if you just awaken to the truth of consciousness, pure being, your mental problems, you will see them as something hazy, dreamy. You will get the power to solve them just like that. You don't give things the importance they don't deserve, because you have awakened to the heart of reality, the reality about your mind itself, about your perception itself. So this is the Vedantic process of waking up to reality. Just like how when you wake up in the morning, you don't explain or try to find a solution to your dream. So also when you wake up to the reality of consciousness, you don't try to find an explanation to the world of problems. You give it its place. So this is the second way to come at perfect perception. You just wake up to reality. So these are all the common ways given to us through these philosophies by which you can enhance, augment your perception. Means actually seeing. You are augmenting your sight, augmenting your knowledge. You wake up to the heart of reality, or you clarify your mind. You can also combine the two processes, because one is giving you a method and does not talk much about the goal. Yoga gives you a solid method, it's a methodology actually, and does not talk too much about the goal. Vedanta talks about the goal, but may not give you a method. Although yes, there are Vedantic meditation techniques also, upasanas they are called, vidyas they are called, but what I am saying is you can combine the two also, the yogic and Vedantic process. So the thing is this, perception has to be augmented and brought to its full fruition. Then you will know reality as it is, whether it is external perception or internal perception. The extent to which you develop yourself, your perceptions will be clearer, right? And if your perception is the clearest, you will know reality as it is. Epistemology leads to ontology, that is why. Leads to the very heart of truth, the method which you adopt, the method of knowledge which you adopt. So here we have studied only perception. Like this there are many pramanas, many means of knowledge, but your perceptions have to be refined and augmented for you to perceive reality. Just now when we say, kahan hai satya, mujhe kyun nahi dikhai de raha, why do I not know this? The simple reason is your perception has not augmented to that level. Your mind is still not ready for that truth. So make it ready. There are processes, there are ways, and you will get that truth in your own life. You see, spirituality is a totally experiential thing. It's a do-it-yourself thing. It is no theory. There is no theory actually. Yoga is a process of which, it's something which happens in your system. So if you train the system well, you can get the experience you want. Let me sum up for you what we studied today's class in the perception process. First is, perception is the means of knowledge, means to know something. Second thing is, perceptions can be external or internal. Perceptions can be augmented. Perceptions require the presence of the mind, right? Mind activity. You must know mind in order to perceive best. The more you clear your mind, the better your perceptions. Then we went into the perceptive process in science, what science has to say about it, and what yoga has to say about it, what Vedanta has to say about it. Finally, we come to this conclusion: awareness, consciousness is at the heart of perception. And it is using the instrumentality of the mind and the brain and your sense organs to perceive sense objects which appear to be outside. They are outside your skin, not outside your awareness. Our simple fallacy is what we think we are limited by the skin. Whatever is inside this is me. Whatever is outside this is not me. Okay, whatever is inside this is the body, but in your mind there are no such limits. In your awareness, there are absolutely no limits. Mind still has the epistemic limits of time, space and causation. But in awareness, there are absolutely no limits. So there is one seamless reality in which the subject and the objects are appearances. Even as the different colors of Vibgyor are appearances of electromagnetic radiation. Isn't it? Any science you penetrate into it, it will give you its foundation in unity. When science reaches its climax, it perceives a unity. So also, the perceptive science, its unity lies in consciousness. Because of the presence of consciousness, because you are conscious, there is perception. That is the heart of the perceptive process. Let me give you one or two more points here before I conclude. In our culture, many times, gods and goddesses are also portrayed as having three eyes, isn't it? हम शिव जी को त्रिनयन कहते हैं. Why three eyes? Why do they have three eyes? How can anybody have three eyes? What do they mean by that? You see, it's a culture which is trying to give you very important concepts through all this kind of imagery. Third eye means he is perceiving something more than what we can perceive. He has augmented his perception. He is the master yogi, he is Yogishwara. That is why he is three-eyed. So, developing the third eye and all this means it's a figurative way of saying you must enhance, augment your perceptions. Go into a process which will help you do this. The Buddha nature, in Buddhism how it is explained, what is the nature of the Buddha? It is so clear, you see, it's so beautiful. Buddha nature is simply your flawless, present awareness, cognizant and empty, naked and awake. That is the Buddha consciousness. It is your very own awareness augmented in its real original state. It is not another being. You see, this very being, the human being, becomes the Buddha. If you reach that level of perception. Raman Maharshi, he used to say, there is no mistaking consciousness when it is pure. What a remarkable sentence this is. Consciousness is the most obvious thing when it is pure. If it is mixed up with mind activity, then you have all problems. It deflects your knowledge. But the thing in itself is not difficult. That is why when Kant said, Vivekananda had studied a lot of Western philosophy. When Kant said the thing in itself cannot be known. But our Upanishads say the thing in itself can be known. There are methods to know it. And that's why Vivekananda said, where Kant ends, Vedanta begins. So here you have a very profound system of thought, a very profound philosophy which is giving you ways to augment your perceptions so that you augment your life. Because as I told you, your life, whatever you are calling life, if it flowers by itself, if it blossoms by itself completely into full awareness, your happiness is 100% guaranteed by yourself. If you are only half alive, which means not fully aware at all, you require objects to keep you alive and aware. And if you are totally unaware, you require drinks and drugs to pep you up. Your levels of awareness is determined, your levels of happiness is determined by how aware you are within yourself. If you are fully alive, fully aware, you don't need an object to keep you happy. You don't need anybody to keep you happy. You are just bubbling with joy. तो ये एक संभावना है. To the extent you work on yourself, enhance your awareness, as yoga is meant for that. Vedanta is meant for this. To the extent you do this, not only your perceptions of everything become clear, by yourself you are all satiated, supremely happy. Nothing else is required to bring into your life joy, ecstasy, happiness. Otherwise, 1,000 things, a 7-figure salary will not keep you happy. the mind will still be greeding for something else. This is the nature of life. So you must understand all these basic things right now. I am not telling you don't aim at the good things of life. Aim at them. But you must know basically this is what is happening with the human psychology. Yoga and Vedanta are methods for you to introduce yourself, your own mind, to the higher aspects of your being. Once you get them, once you are able to experience them by yourself, you discount, in a way you can do without a whole lot of things in your life and yet stay supremely happy. You are not their slave, that's the basic thing. You have it in your life, but you are not a slave to that thing. You can very well do without it. So your entire life is in your hands. Your happiness is in your hands, not in the hands of somebody. Isn't it? If today you need somebody to keep you happy, when that person changes, your happiness also will change. But if you are the source and origin of your happiness, the beauty of life is in your hands. So this possibility is open to the human experience, to the human being. Through a little practice of these things, the purpose of studying perception is this. Your means of knowledge, your means for happiness can be cleared, can be augmented, and you can get the highest blessings of life by yourself, through yourself. Not through a belief system, not through somebody, through yourself. Uddhared atmana atmanam, na atmanam avasadayet. The message of the Bhagavad Gita is this: you elevate yourself by yourself. Don't reduce yourself to something stupid by yourself. Elevate yourself by yourself. You are perfectly capable of doing it. So let us stop today's lecture here. Tomorrow's lecture is connected to this because we are going to go into self-discovery through the perceptive process. We'll stop it here today.